Speaking of how fantastic The Last of Us is, David writes in and says, "Hey, Beyond Crew.
Hello.
Does Greg still stand by the perfect Uncharted 3 score now that we have the hindsight of The Last of Us to benchmark it against? No game is perfect, of course, and this is not a criticism of IGN's scoring methods at all, but just a question that's been on my mind. I'd be very interested to hear your opinion. Beyond. David, yeah, I still stand by my perfect. I mean, like, I went through and I printed off. First off, I always stand by the Uncharted 310.
Yeah.
Love Uncharted 310. It's Uncharted 310. It's still the reason I said that's the reason I play games, right? Like in my review, and that's still totally the case. I love Uncharted 3. It's a great ride. But if you read how IGN describes the 10, it is, quote, the pinnacle of gaming, a masterpiece that may not be flawless, but is so exceptional that it is hard to imagine a game being better.
Yeah.
At the time of its release, this game is not just the best the system can offer, but better than we could have expected. I think that both, yes, Uncharted 3 fits that description, and yes, The Last of Us fits that description.
Yeah, I read that description a million times.
If you're putting them head-to-head, I think Last of Us is probably overall a better game as far as collectible storytelling, acting, performance, stuff like that. But I still think Uncharted 3 is a 10, because I think that this is what I liked about when we were on a 20-point scale for reviews, is that you could lump games together. These are 8.5 games, and then have a discussion about is this a better 8.5 than this is? And now we get to this minutia of, well, this game's an 8.7 and that game's an 8.6, so there's clearly a difference there. Whereas once you get to 10, these games are awesome. They're masterpieces. They're amazing. That's what these are.
We haven't given many games 10s.
No.
I was looking at the list. We have, like, on IGN's wiki or whatever, there's like a list, and there's like a lot of on there in terms of like some mobile games and like
Craig Harris
old
Game Boy
games. But like when you really get down to like the meat of the games that we've given, like the games that are actually meaningful that we've given 10s to, there's like a dozen of them. So it's not like we're handing these things out wantonly or whatever, you know.
But I like a world where they exist.
Me
You
too.
know what I mean? Like, I like the fact
you should explore the scale, and that requires going to, you know, doesn't require, but it requires that the 10 is just as valid as the 1, you know.
Sure.
I don't think you can compare 10 games that scored 10 as well, because you have to look at it in the context of the generation. Or
Sure.
the time it was
Yeah,
released.
at the time of its release. That's such an important part of
Zeitgeist.
that.
Well, that's what we always say about our review scores. Like, we don't update, we don't go back and change review scores because those reviews are a snapshot in time. And so it's more like at that time was the 10.
Yeah.
And I think in most of those cases, I think I agree with a lot of our 10s.
And yeah, I mean, I don't agree with like our Metal Gear Solid 4 10 at all, but you know, that was Jeff's score, and he felt that way. And as far as like Uncharted 3, which again Greg and I played pretty extensively before it came out, and Greg was agonizing over what to give that game, and I think it is a 10. Like I know people really like Among Thieves better. Like I don't get that. I think Uncharted 3 is like a much better game. I think they're all awesome games,
Sure,
but
exactly.
I think like when I think about playing Uncharted 3 for the first time, I remember when we got it. Like we went to Sony to get it, and we had the game like really early, and we played it, and we were, and I was like, this game is phenomenal. This is a phenomenal game, and I was like, easy to go back and nitpick the shit out of anything, but that game was awesome. I want more of that.
Yeah.
And if Uncharted 4 is more of Uncharted 3 as opposed to Uncharted 2, like whatever, like that's gonna be awesome, you know. So.
And I think you see that in The Last of Us, right? Like your review talks about it when we talk about the game. No spoilers for Last of Us here, but that there are the young Drake moments, things you did not see coming. You did not expect this to happen in The Last of Us, and now all of a sudden it is, and you're in it. And I think that for me is always what I talk about when I talk about why I didn't like Uncharted 2 as much as I liked Uncharted 3. And I know I always think it goes back to how much you played and loved Uncharted 1. I loved Uncharted 1. I thought Uncharted 1 was so great. And playing Uncharted 2, I didn't review Uncharted 2. Roper did, so I got to play it and just have fun with it. And I felt it was a great game. Again, I love it. Fantastic. I don't argue or score about it. But Uncharted 2, I felt, was beat for beat Uncharted 1. Like, this guy's going to betray us, clearly. Okay, what's going to happen? Where's the supernatural twist? Okay. Whereas Uncharted 3 was, here's a wrench in how everything works from what you know before. Like, let's just get, it's Nate and Sully. They're out doing this. This is their story. What's going to happen? And I loved that.
Yep.
That was the refreshing pace I wanted.
I totally agree with that, actually. I think Uncharted 3 plays with the formula in a smarter way. And it also, like, has those moments, like, I mean, the moment I bring up all the time, you know, obviously now it's been a while, you know, The Walking Dead came out, Last of Us came out, Bioshock Infinite came out, and there have been these incredible story beats since then. But I remember when Uncharted 3 came out, that quiet moment when, like, Elena is, like, on the phone and Drake finally comes in and just, like, falls asleep, like, puts his head down in her lap. It's, like, such a quiet, tender, incredible moment. And very, very few games can achieve something like that. Like, there are plenty of games where it's, like, there's a shocking death or there's a big twist. But, like, to have a moment like that and make you realize that you care enough about the characters that you're willing to watch a scene of them just, like being tender and loving each other, like, it is amazing. And, like, I don't think for me, as someone interested in narrative, I don't think Uncharted 2 quite has that moment, even though it is obviously a fantastic game. I also think it's funny that a lot of the things people nitpick about 3, they're like, oh, well, the shooting controls are really stupid. Like, to me, like, I mean, I never had a problem with them in Uncharted 2, but they're really the same to me as in Uncharted 2. Like, I never was bothered by the controls any more or less than I had been before.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah, and I also think that when you compare Lazarevich to Marlowe, it's like, as far as like, and what was the other guy's name? The Talbot. Yeah, like Talbot and Marlowe are much more interesting than Lazarevich in that whole thing.
I mean, like for the things that like when people, I don't know, like we talk about, you know, Uncharted 3, and I said that it was the reason I play games and how much I love it and stuff. I did overlook stuff that maybe, like, and maybe in hindsight I should have nitpicked, right? Like, what was their plan once they got that thing that turned you crazy or whatever? But then again, it's like, well, what the fuck was Lazarevich's plan? He's drinking the sap and he's going to be just be, like, unkillable.
It's an
and
action movie. Like,
exactly.
This is what I'm
like,
saying.
Why
like,
am I getting
you can't go into these, like, a Lethal Weapon movie and be like, hey, like, what the fuck are you really going to do once you, like, figure... It's like, that's not really what it's about. And Drake might not know that answer anyway. That's not, like, what he's doing.
Sure.
And if you're playing the game from the perspective of Drake, which you are, then he's not going to have those answers. Like, the wall's broken all the time because we see, you know, we see Marlowe and Talbot, and in other games we see the villains doing their own thing or whatever, and we get, like, more perspective than he would even have generally.
Right.
I don't know. I just think that the only thing that was weird was like it was taking like a supernatural twist, and they like where Talbot could disappear and stuff like that, and like that kind of like I was really into that, and then they never explained.
It's fun.
That.
I've talked to Naughty Dog about that before, and for them, they were like, it was just sleight of hand tricks that we thought people would not understand, but like give us a little bit more slack for it, right? That just like, okay, well, he's really, but like, yeah, like since they never touched on it, you're like, wait a second, how did he run into a dead end and disappear? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Director's cut will show him like moving around the wall and stuff, putting on a stealth camo. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and that's again why I kind of respect Uncharted 3, because they at least attempt to explain why you have like the Ghost Rider dudes at the end. Like,
right.
That
yeah,
really
right.
there,
Yeah. They try to get away from it. Yeah. All right. That was fun.
Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.